Hey guys, Political Junkie 2414 here, and welcome back to another 2024 Senate election related video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2024 United States Senate election in the state of Utah, and the Republican primary, more specifically in the state, which hasn't been getting a lot of attention, which surprises me personally because I think that this is going to be a very interesting race to watch, particularly because of who's running. So, you know, basically what's happening in Utah right now is Mitt Romney, the junior senator, and by junior I mean the one who has been around for the lesser amount of time of the two senators. He is obviously a Republican. He is one of the biggest anti-Trump critics in the GOP. And he is, undecided on whether or not he is going to seek re-election. Now, obviously, what's significant about this is that Romney is not only anti-Trump, but also voted to convict the former president in both of his impeachment trials. He was actually the only Republican senator to vote to convict Trump during his first impeachment trial. And obviously he wasn't the only one during the second one, but he, was memorable in that sense. And Utah is a state where that is very Republican, but is very Trump, very skeptical and not so willing to back Trump Republicans. And we're gonna kind of go through the electoral history of Utah, talk about Romney, talk about what's going on with him, and seeing who could potentially primary him, who Trump could run against him, and basically how it would all turn out. So to start off, we're going to go back all the way, not super far, but 10 years ago to the 2012 presidential election, more specifically for Utah. So Mitt Romney won the state by a whopping 48 points. He swept every county, and to some people, you might be saying, "Well, duh, Utah's a red state. What's the big significance of this?" Barack Obama only got 25% of the vote. Not even that. Utah is a state that hasn't gone Democratic, for decades. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is basically, comparing this to how Donald Trump did in the state. So in 2016, you can see that Trump did significantly worse than Romney. He didn't even crack 50% of the vote. He got 45% of the vote. Hillary Clinton got 27% of the vote. So, you might be saying, well, what's the big deal? 27%, that's only 3 points better than Obama. Well, one major thing to do with this state being excuse me, one of the big reasons that Utah was so much closer was because of Evan McMullen. He is an independent from Utah. He ran for president, and he got a significant chunk of the vote. This was his best performing state. It's his home state. He got 21%, and most likely took away a lot of the votes from Donald Trump. In addition, if you look at the Republican primary in Utah, uh, Trump didn't even get 14% of the vote, so he did terribly in Utah. Ted Cruz won almost 70%. Even John Kasich beat Trump in the state. So that shows just how unpopular, Trumpism is among Republicans in Utah and just the state in general. And then we go to 2020. Trump expands his lead, sure. But what's more surprising is that Joe Biden gets 38% of the vote in Utah. This is the highest amount, this is the highest percentage of the percentage of the vote that a Democrat has gotten in the state since Lyndon B. Johnson won it in 1964, which is the last time a Democrat won Utah. Um, and what's really what I'm trying to say here is not that Utah is going to be competitive in the future, not that it's going to be some uh battleground in the foreseeable future. I think one day it may be, but not in the immediate future. But what I am trying to say here is that Trumpism does not work in Utah. I don't know if I should say it doesn't work, but it is not popular there. The only reason I think why Utah is still red is because it's a more conservative state than it is a Trump state. And, if you look at the Senate election in Utah this past year, Evan McMullen, that same independent I was talking about, he actually ran with the endorsement of the Democratic Party against Mike Lee, who's the other senator from the state of Utah. And he came, he only lost to Lee by 10 points, which is actually really good for, you know, that's a pretty close election for Utah standards. A Republican winning by only 10 points in the state. That's pretty bad, to be honest. And obviously, I think it was a strategic move for Democrats to not put forth their own candidate because that would have split the vote. And while they were never going to beat Lee, it at least gave it gave us that interesting showing, and I think that it's a reference point for how Utah's politics kind of stand as of right now, and how they kind of have been. So, how does this have to apply to Romney? Well, in 2018, he got elected as a senator from Utah. He had this support of Trump. He'd been a Trump critic in 2016, but in 2018, he kind of walked that back. Not, I don't know if I'd say walked it back, but it wasn't a big deal to him. He got the support of pretty much every Republican in the Senate. He won the primary. To succeed Orrin Hatch, and he won the general election. And so now he's running again after, being a bipartisan senator and being someone, who's, very much, in the more moderate establishment wing of the party. So, I brought up this article from Politico, and, we're just going to kind of go through what it says. And basically, just kind of, I'm going to give my thoughts on it. And at the end, I will show you kind of where I think this primary stands as of right now. So, I guess the big thing to talk about here, they make some references here and there. The first thing I'll bring up is the fact that Mitch McConnell, of course, the Senate Minority Leader, Republican, the Senate Republican leader, has said that he would support Romney and is encouraging him to run. And he did, McConnell did back Lisa Murkowski, who was the only Trump I guess, Republican senator who voted to convict Trump, who was up for reelection, or who excuse me, McConnell only supported Lisa Murkowski, up in Alaska, for who was the only Republican senator who voted to convict Trump, that ran for reelection last year, and she won. McConnell made it a priority that the Trump-backed candidate, Kelly Shabaka, would not defeat Murkowski, and that very much worked for Murkowski. I think that Alaska and Utah are similarly red states that just are not big fans of Trumpism. And McConnell says, he's absolutely willing to do the same for Romney. He could, he said that he would be willing to spend millions of dollars through his super PAC to get him reelected. And I think that McConnell, this is kind of, kind of would be a symbolic moment for the GOP. It would show, hey, Trumpism isn't, we're not all about Trumpism. We can still have normal people in the party. And, I think that that's really a big problem as to why Republicans lost last year, because they had so many Trump-backed nominees. And very few of them won. The vast majority of Trump's backed nominees in competitive races all lost to the Democrats. Only a couple, came out, and the ones that weren't in competitive races, didn't really matter. They were in safe Republican districts that that were never going to go blue anyway. So I think that that shows the weakness of Trump and his candidates in this day and age, and I think that McConnell realizes that, and I think Romney realizes that, and I think that him running again would really, I think, give a lot of Republican. I think he would encourage more Republicans to stand out. I think that he is someone who can win in Utah. As I've said, is a more traditional traditionally conservative state. I think that that would also encourage some Republicans to be more open to expressing their opposition to Trump. So basically, what else happens here? What else is said here? The NRSC, the new NRSC chair, which is who is Steve Daines, the senator from Montana, has backed Romney running, even though Romney has not announced yet. I guess McConnell's also got the support of, or Romney's also got the support of McConnell. But one person he does not have the endorsement of is Mike Lee, who's obviously the other senator. And what happened last year in 2022 in the Senate election campaign, Lee was running against McMullen, who was a friend of Romney, and so Romney decided not to endorse anyone in that race, and he stayed out of it. Lee ultimately won, which was unsurprising, but the margin was, of course, smaller than expected. And it looks like Lee is going to bow out of endorsing Romney again, whatever that means. He's going to throw his support to a primary opponent. My guess is he probably wouldn't, but either way, it just seems like the Lee is going to stay out of it. I don't think that his endorsement would mean much anyway. But uh, I guess another thing to point out, one thing that some of you may be wondering is if Trump does, if Trump does get involved in the race, and if Romney faces a primary challenge, who would he face? And I think the most, the most likely option would be the Attorney General of Utah, Sean Reyes, who is a Trump ally. I think that he tried to help him overturn, or I think that Trump also sued Utah in 2020 for the election results, even though he won the state, as I showed you guys earlier. Um, but basically, Reyes is a Trump ally. He has talked with Trump about potentially running, and I think that he would be the most likely person to challenge Romney if he was to get somebody, was to get an opponent. And you also hear some stuff about Kirsten Sinema endorsing, or not endorsing, but kind of talking, speaking fondly of Romney. I think that, you know, and I think that that kind of brings us to the culmination of this article. And the main idea here is that will Romney be able to be part of this bipartisan group of senators who are able to get stuff passed? Last Congress was very productive. There were a lot of there was the bipartisan gun safety legislation. There was the marriage equality bill, and the infrastructure bill, and Romney was a part of all that. He voted yes on all three of those bills. And I think now in 2023, where you have this new split Congress with Republicans controlling the House, Democrats controlling the Senate, that's going to make it harder for things to pass. And I think that that could potentially deter Romney from running again. But I think, and he said that he's surprised that he's pleasantly surprised that there wasn't a lot of opposition to these bills. This stuff was actually able to get passed. And and I think that he says that he said that he's considering it, running again, and seeing what uh sorry, trying to think. He's saying that he's trying that Jesus. Yeah, he's basically just saying that he wants to see how, if this Congress can get stuff passed, because we're only, 2 months into this congressional session. We got, what, 22 months, I guess, because the sessions are 2 years. And I think that he's waiting to see how everything, turns out. And I think that that will play a part in his final decision. I think that Romney, at the end of this article, he kind of talks about, um, he's 75 years old. He's been in public office for all these years, and he's wondering what am I going to do in the time I have left? Because Romney would be 77 by the time he's up for re-election in 2024. So he'd be old, and if he wins another term, he'd be 83 by the end of this hypothetical second term. So I think that a lot of those things are going to go into his decision. Personally, I do think that Romney's going to run, and I think he is going to win the primary. Most likely would be against Reyes. I'll show you guys my county prediction. So Romney is the counties that are going to Romney are in red. Reyes' counties are in I guess this kind of brownish color. So, I don't think it would be a blowout for Romney, but I do think he would win. I think he'd, do best in the Salt Lake City area, and elsewhere. But yeah, I think that that's the main idea of this video. I think um there's a lot of people that are talking about other Senate primaries on YouTube, a lot of political YouTubers, and I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this one. I think that this one could really be a very interesting primary to watch. I think that if Romney potentially doesn't run, which I do think is a possibility, although not the most likely outcome. We could see an interesting race to replace him. And if he does run, we could see a competitive primary. Either way, I think he would win, and obviously the general election in Utah would be safe. It would just be a matter of who wins the primary. So, yeah, just wanted to make this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share the video, turn on notifications, and yeah, check out my non-political channel, Interactor127, and my second channel, Political Junkie, sorry, my comrades channel, GrowlingZeus666. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things politics. See ya.